Hare Krishna, Namaste. Chapter 15 is entitled as Puruṣottamaḥ Vidya, Puruṣottamaḥ Yogam. Sloka 19, Part 16. Yo māmevam asammudaha janāti puruṣottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena Bharata. From the previous session, we learned that Krishna is nimitta karana, the instrumental cause, and upadhana karana, the material cause as well. We also learned the definition of upadhana karana, that which changes from one form to another form, which means it cannot be Chetana, a sentient being. It must be a non-sentient being, Achetana. Only Achetana goes through changes. The Atma never goes through any physical changes. So the question arises, how can the Lord be the Upadhana Karana? As the Upadhana Karana must transform into Karya, the cause transformed into effect. But the scriptures very clearly state that the Lord is avikaraya shuddhaya nityaya paramatmane. Then how can he be upadhana karana for this universe? The Lord doesn't go through changes. As we learned and spent one full section on this subject, akila heya pratyanika. Unlike the achetanas which constantly goes through transformation, the Lord never goes through any transformation. For that reason, he is greater than other things. Avikaraya. Vikara means changes. Avikaraya means no changes. He doesn't go through changes in his forms. Whereas, what we learned in the previous session is that he is also upadhana karana. Whenever an object is upadhana karana, that means it must go through parinama, the changes, vikara. How do we understand that the Lord is also upadhana karana, not just nimitta karana? From the previous session, we learned the causes through some examples. A ball of mud transforms into a pot. That's one example we saw. Here, a ball of mud is upadhana karana, and that which comes out of it is a pot with a shape and a design. That is karya, the effect. Now, let's take another example of ourselves. When we were born, we were called as infants. Later, we were called as toddler. Then we were told a child. Then we were called as a boy or a girl. Then we were referred as youth. Then as an adult. That is, I was an infant, I was a toddler, I was a child, I was a youth, and now I am an adult. That means I have changed so many times. Now I am no more young, I am no more a child, no more a toddler, no more a newborn infant. And tomorrow I will not be a middle-aged man, I will be an old man. But the thing that need to be noted is, during all these changes and the changes that yet to come later, I am the same person who went through various changes, and these changes were to my body. Otherwise, I as a person never changed. It is me, the same person in that infant body and the toddler body and the child body and the youngster body and in the adult body, and tomorrow I will be the same person in the old man's body. So what has happened here is the Jivatma who possesses a body in the child form transformed into a Jivatma who possesses a body in a youngster form. Now I do not say that I am a child. I do not say I am a youngster. I am an adult who was transformed from the youngster into an adult body. Let's understand this one. The Jivatma with the infant body is the Upadhana Karana for the Jivatma in the toddler's body. The Jivatma within the toddler's body is the Upadhana Karana for the Jivatma within the child's body. The Jivatma within the child's body is the Upadhana Karana for the Jivatma within the youth body. Because we say each time Jivatma, it doesn't mean we have so many Jivatma, different Jivatma that takes different body. It is the same Jivatma which is a cause for the other Karya to be in that particular body. But what's happening here is a changes only to the body. Atma does not undergo any change in its form, but merely a change in state happens. What is the state of change happens? From toddler to child, from child to a boy, boy to a youth, youth to a man. All these changes only happens to the body, not to the Atma. So, I was a child, now transformed into a man. So the Atma did not change, but the state of Atma has changed from one to another. From having a child's body, the Atma is changed now to having an adult's body. For this reason, we say that the Jivatma is called the Upadhana Karana. Please understand, the Jivatma never goes through any changes. It is always in the form of Jnana and Ananda, and it is Anu, minute. The changes only happens to the body, but we always say that Jivatma obtained a different state. That is, he is man, he is no more a child. That means he who was a child was the cause to become a man. Therefore, he is Upadhana Karana. And very important point to be noted here is that for an object to be Upadhana Karana, we learn it has to transform into something else. But the Jivatma physically does not transform into anything. Its state is being transformed. Therefore, Upadhana Karana, for something to be an Upadhana Karana, it is not necessary that the object itself directly needs to go through transformation, changes. Even if the object changes from one state to the other state, then it is still known as Upadhana Karana. Like this example that we are seeing now, the Jivatma with the child's body changed to the Jivatma within the youth body. Here the physical changes only happens to the body, not to the Jivatma. But it is clear that Jivatma is Upadhana Karana in this case, because the state of Jivatma from being a child has changed, transformed into a youth. We never hear sayings that a child body changed to adult body. Rather, we say or we hear, he, the Jivatma, with the youth body has changed into the Jivatma with the adult body. He has changed. This is a common term that we always hear. But the Jivatma never changed. But its state is changed from where it was to something else. Therefore, Jivatma is upadhana karana. Though it did not go through physical change, it did go through a change of state from one to another, which certainly satisfy the criteria or definition of upadhana karana. Upadhana karana, not necessarily the physical change needs to happen. Even change of state from one to another can be referred as upadhana karana. Therefore, here in this example, the Jivatma is upadhana karana. Let's not forget why we are seeing this example is to understand how the Supreme Lord is upadhana karana, while he never changes. Now let's see a quotation from Subhala Upanishad. It says, Yesha sarvabhutantaraatma apahata papma divyaha devaha yeko narayanaha. That is, the Lord is antaratma, the super soul, within everything, both the achetanas and chetanas. By now we must be very familiar what they are. Achetanas are non-sentient beings, chetanas are sentient beings, meaning that which does not have consciousness are achetanas and that which has consciousness are chetanas. Obviously, the living entities are chetanas, the non-living entities are achetanas. They are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. They are all the Lord's energies. Energies comes from energetic. So the energetic doesn't go through any physical changes. It is the energies that goes through changes, and specifically the achetanas which goes through physical changes. Whereas chetanas does not go through physical changes, but they go through change in their state from one to another. That is what we saw just earlier. Now let's take a step back. During the Pralaya time, destruction period, it is only the Pradhana, the Moola Prakriti that exists. Of course, the spiritual world always exists, but the topic for our discussion is the creation of universe, not the spiritual world. Therefore, let's focus over here that at the time of Pralaya, it is only the Prakriti, Moola Prakriti exists. It exists with its three gunas, Sattva Guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. They three are in a very balanced state, meaning they are in equal state. Not that one is greater than the other and there is no competition between these gunas. That only happens during the creation and after the creation. But during the Pralaya stage, the Moola Prakriti has three gunas within it in a very balanced state, and the Lord is present within that Moola Prakriti as Antaratma, the super soul. Whether the world is created, the universe is created or not created, in both states the Lord is the super soul within it. When we say this, we should not come to a wrong conclusion that the Lord is present as super soul within the Moola Prakriti and then later he is present as super soul within this universe, which is the final product of Prakriti. If we conclude so, it is like saying pot came from mud. But the way that we need to understand this is the Lord is present as Antaratma within Moola Prakriti. The super soul within the Moola Prakriti then makes a portion of Moola Prakriti into Mahan. Now the Lord is present as super soul within that Mahan, which is just a portion of the Moola Prakriti. Then from the Mahan, a portion of it changes into Ahankara. The Lord is present within that Ahankara. Then a portion of that Ahankara changes into Panchabhuta. Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayur, Kam. Earth, water, fire, air and ether. And the Lord is present as super soul within each of these Panchabhutas, 5 material elements. Those Panchabhutas transforms into the universe, and the Lord is present as Supersoul within that universe as well. And the Lord who is present as Supersoul in Prakriti, and the Lord who is present as Supersoul in Mahan, the Lord who is present as Supersoul in Ahankara, in Panchabhuta, in the universe, is all one and the same, Sri Krishna. Now, let's connect this one with what we learned in the previous example. That is, the Jivatma of youth body changes into Jivatma of the adult body. That means the Jivatma is the Upadhana Karana as it changed from one state to another state. Likewise, the Lord who is the Supersoul within the Prakriti has changed into the Lord who is Supersoul within the Mahan. Then the Lord who is the Supersoul within the Mahan has changed into the Lord who is Supersoul within Ahankara. Then the Lord who is the Supersoul within the Ahankara changes into the Lord who is the Supersoul within each of the Panchabhutas. The Lord who is the Supersoul within the Panchabhutas changed into the Lord who is the Supersoul within the universe. From this and from the example we learned earlier with Jivatma changes, we can come to a conclusion that the Lord never changes his physical form. He is still avikaraya, never goes through the vikaram, the changes. It is his energies that goes through the changes. It is his parts that goes through the changes. At each level, the Lord is present within the energy as Supersoul, within the part as Supersoul. From this we can understand that the Lord is Nimitta Karana because He makes the decision, and He is Upadhana Karana as His states changes from one to another. He doesn't change physically. Let's continue the same discussion with more details in our next session.
Namaste, Hare Krishna.